note, we have a new member or two on our team, so if you all want to start and just let everybody go around and introduce themselves and then we'll follow.
Absolutely.
Good afternoon, Darren Burkett, Deputy Superintendent.
Good afternoon, John Antonacci, I'm Chief Financial Officer.
John Bro, Human Resources Director.
Andy Brown, Human Resources Director.
Val Wenrich, Chief HR.
Elizabeth Alves, Chief Academic Officer.
Karen Phillips, Compensation Director. Kelly Block, Sports Strategy.
Joe Mikulski, Principal, Golden Gate High School.
Steve Sullivan, Second Vice President and History Teacher at Golden Gate High.
Kristen Burke, ESE Inclusion, Lake Trafford Elementary.
April Mix, Oak Ridge Middle School, Math.
Lyle Farmers, staff.
Pam Baldwin, I'm a math teacher at Oak Ridge Middle. I'm the first VP for CCEA and Chairman of the Board Committee.
Ken Mouton, President of CCEA and teacher at Golden Gate High School.
Kelly Bettridge, Social Studies, Naples High.
Esmond Lewis, Staff Director, CCEA.
Crystal Kelly, Treasurer and ESE Special Ed Teacher at Lake Trafford Elementary.
Okay, we have some dates in mind.
Copies of our bargaining team, just so you have that.
Okay, and you sent out, we have a,
You sent the old cap.
Tonight.
Thank you.
Sorry.
That's okay. Thanks.
okay, as of right now, we have, May the 17th on the calendar for our next meeting. Is there another meeting that we can work in May? Maybe even after Memorial Day, maybe that one.
Memorial Day is the 29th, right?
Yeah, so maybe either 30th or 31st, does that work?
So the 31st, we have an Issues Committee meeting. I can't do the 30th.
Could we change the issues committee? Let this take priority and we could switch that to another date?
Okay. Well, you're off contract as of Friday. So do you want to just cancel issues, or do you want to reschedule issues, or reschedule it for when you come back? Or do you wanna just get back to me?
I think we can still have it, maybe, even if it's only a few of our team.
They'll just come in off contract?
Yeah.
Okay. That's voluntary, and we're not making you do that. Just wanna make that very clear, we are not scheduling it on an off contract, so.
What day was that?
That is Wednesday,
31st?
31st?
May 31st. Or 30. CCEA, do
Yes.
you wanna set another one?
Sure.
How does Wednesday the 7th look for you?
June 7th, guys, how does that look okay?
Yeah.
Yep. Well, we won't let you go.
Okay,
So that's a Wednesday also?
so at district, Wednesday,
Now, what time do we wanna do that, cause we're off contract, if you want to make that earlier in the day, we can.
yeah, it's kinda, we're still full days, and those are our 4 10-hour days for work, so 4:30, if that works. And then we'll just see how that first week, because that's our first week of the 4-hour summer days, and that is the last week we have a lot of people still on contract, so it might ease up as the summer goes along, but let's just test that one first.
That works.
All right.
Okay, in getting started here, we wanted to ask you if you have anything that you would like to present at this meeting.
I only have one item, because we're really kind of more curious to work off of what you all were seeking, but we do have some information. This has been a very unique year, legislatively, budgetarily, so I wanted to have our Chief Financial Officer share some information about kind of what the scope of the future looks like, so that everyone is informed. And we're still, you know, based on our ground rules, we're still waiting for the governor to sign the budget. It's not been signed. I know that they have done some final edits to the budget, but we haven't gotten any of our final preliminary numbers, so that'll come soon. But John, do you wanna
Sure.
share some information?
Thank you, Val. Yes, as Val mentioned, the Senate and the House are still coming up with their conference report, and so there is no final budget yet, obviously, but just wanted to make you aware, since we're obviously bargaining impacts the budget, I want you to be aware of some of the additional costs that will be absorbed by the district next year. There's an increase in the Florida retirement system rates. So there's a rate increase of 15.53% that we as a district have to contribute for the employer. It's going to equate to about $5.4 million additional next year that FRS is going to cost us. In addition, there's an increase in the health insurance. That's a 7.5% increase, which equates to approximately $4 million. We also got notice from FP&L that to anticipate a 9% increase in electricity, which is about $1 million additional to our electric costs. We also have some increases in contractual services. Some of the contractual services we have is like ABM custodians, landscaping, things of that nature. That's anticipated to cost us about $3 million more next year. And as you know, we also have Aubrey Rogers High School slated to open in August 2023. And since this is a new school, there's going to be new costs associated with that. Not necessarily teacher costs, because the teachers will be coming from other schools, but whenever you open a new school, you're going to have additional staff that you didn't have before. Principal, assistant principals, counselors, office manager, data entry, receptionists, general secretary, additional support staff such as that. You also have insurance for that facility that you didn't have before. Sewage, trash, landscaping, electricity, things of that nature. So it's approximately $2 million more from the opening of the new high school. In addition, as you're aware, the state is expanding the Family Empowerment Scholarship. That we do know, that has been signed, and so that is greatly expanding the amount of vouchers that are going to be provided to students now. They expanded it so private and home education will be able to submit for that Family Empowerment Scholarship, and so that's going to have a substantial increase in expenses. No one really can tell you how much that's going to be right now. If you ask at the state level right now, some are saying $200 million is how much it'll cost the state of Florida, all the way up to $2 billion is how much it may impact educational funding here in Florida. So we don't know exactly how much that's going to cost us, but it will cost us, and so we're planning for that. This year, Family Empowerment costs us approximately $13 million. We're anticipating it'll probably cost us about $30 million, and that's just the best guesstimate. We don't know yet because we don't know who's going to apply for it and who's going to qualify for it. So that's going to be a substantial increase for us, you know, at least $16–17 million. On top of that, something for everyone to consider for future years is there's some funding that will be expiring. Our ARP, American Rescue Plan, and ESSER, which is the federal stimulus funds that we received after COVID. For a lot of districts, they refer to this as a fiscal cliff that's coming because they expire in September 2024. So a lot of districts have become very reliant on these funds and are using it just to stay afloat. We're fortunate here where we use the majority of the funds to provide supplemental programs. We also used it for COVID relief bonuses and other things here, summer school, extended day, additional services. So when those funds expire, we're being very proactive and looking at it now ahead of time before that September 2024. So hopefully we should be good there, but it is going to impact our funding because the money won't be there anymore. So we're gonna have to absorb some costs from our operating. On top of that, we have our tax neutral referendum, which expires in June 2025. That tax neutral referendum shifts 0.35 millage from capital to our operating. So it's tax neutral because we're taking funds from the capital and putting it to our operating so that we can use it to pay for operating things such as salaries. That 0.35 millage equates to about $47 to $50 million that we shift from capital to operating. In capital, we could only use it for buildings, for renovations, for capital expenses. By shifting it to operating, it allows us to pay for salaries and other operating expenses. When that expires in June 2025, it could potentially cause us to have to cover $50 million in our operating, which we don't have, so we would immediately be deficit spending. So our hope is that the school board and superintendent will advocate to renew that tax neutral referendum, but it's not all up to us. It has to go out to the public for a vote. So hopefully we can get it on the November 2024 ballot. Again, it'll have to be the school board and superintendent to advocate for it and get it on the ballot. And then it goes to the citizens of Collier County, and hopefully we can get that renewed because it is keeping us right now be able to provide the level of service that we're doing and the salaries and maintaining our programs at this time. So without that being renewed, we will be in a bad situation. So hopefully it gets on the ballot for November 2024, but I just wanted to share that with you because that is something that could potentially impact future years. I did also want to mention that on a good note, we are going to be debt-free at the end of the fiscal year 2026. So we have debt for when we built schools in the early 2000s that we didn't have enough impact fees for, or capital fund, and we had to borrow money to build those schools. So that capital debt is almost paid off at the end of 2026, so we're very happy about that. That's a further reason why we would like to shift that money from capital to operating to make sure we can use those capital dollars for operating. The capital dollars cannot be used. So if we once we pay off that debt, it's not like we can then take that money and pay for salaries. We can't. The only way we can is if that tax neutral referendum gets approved. So I just wanted to mention that. And I also wanted to mention that in the next 5 years, there are plans to open additional elementary schools. We have plans to open 2 new elementary schools, Elementary L and Elementary Q in Ave Maria. And so we have to plan for that accordingly as well. Fortunately, we have the impact fees that can only be used for construction and growth. We're going to be utilizing those impact fees to build those 2 new schools. And then after those new schools are open, we then have to use operating dollars to operate the schools. And so, as I mentioned, Aubrey Rogers will cost us approximately $2 million to operate. The elementary schools will cost a little bit less because they're smaller facilities and they don't necessarily cost as much to operate. But each one will probably be about 1.5 to 1.75 million to operate. So we have to plan for that accordingly as well. And I think that's it. I wanted to make sure you're all.
But with all of that, with that picture, because I think it's important that everybody understands the difference between capital and operating, what we can do, and what money we have, and what we don't. Deficit spending or spending down our reserve too can impact our bond ratings when we go to open up new schools. So we want to be very conscious of the budget. But with that, we appreciate and want to do everything that we can, and our goal as a bargaining team is to do everything we can for teachers and do it on the salary schedule. and we come with that basically every year. That's where we feel like the money is best spent, is when it's on the salary schedule, so it is equally distributed across your unit. So that's kind of one of our goals this year. So the only proposal I have for you tonight is, a supplement,
Yes.
yes, you can ask questions, yep.
You talked about the ESSER money. I know we have some that expires this September of
Yeah.
23, and then that's what, ESSER 2?
That's ESSER 2, ESSER 3
And then
expires.
ESSER 3 expires in September of 24.
Yep.
What kind of balances do we have on the ESSER money that we haven't spent yet?
Most of the funds have been earmarked for certain things, so there may be funds that are there right now, but they've been earmarked for projects.
Even with the ESSER 3?
Even with the ESSER 3, yep.
Do you know what the balance is?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Maybe you should get that.
Yeah.
tomorrow. Okay, go ahead.
Any other questions for John?
Would you be able to provide, just because I don't know what this report that you're agreeing to provide to Ms. Baldwin is, but can you provide a report that tells us what has been already earmarked?
Yep.
For
Absolutely.
expenditure?
Yep.
Okay.
And we could give you what's been spent for all of ESSER so far, so I can tell you.
Why don't you
Yeah.
do me a favor and put that in a public records request?
We will do
In
that.
an email, and
You
we'll
get
get
that
that to
tomorrow.
you. Thank you. That way we don't lose it.
Yeah, I got a question. The public records, sometimes it's been taking a little too long. So can we get some kind of time frame, because it
48
shouldn't take
hours?
us- Perfect.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, we just ask that it be put into an email so we can log it, but we get you what you need when you need it. All right. So, looking at, some of the needs of the school and some programming. Then I'm gonna slide this across to you. It didn't make it. There you go. Sorry about that, Pam. This is a recommendation for high school coaching supplement. They're adding a new sport for ladies in the schools. This is to comply with our Title IX. Beach volleyball, and you can see there the index, and we're recommending that we keep the index base at 43,760. And that would be the only proposal we have on the table for you tonight. Do you have enough? We have extra. We have all. I may have given you all this back. Jeez,
Yeah.
somebody needs to grease the table, really.
We'll take that to mean it's germ-free.
That's right.
Okay. So this, you said this is the only one you have.
For tonight, yes.
Are you ready for us to begin?
Sure.
Alright, first of all, in opening our first bargaining session for the 23-24 school year, we would like to start by saying how happy we are to welcome Dr. Riccadelli as the new superintendent of CCPS, our new superintendent, and our superintendent with the heart of an educator. Having a superintendent that's walked a mile in our shoes and understands what it means to be a teacher is monumental. Having a leader with first-hand knowledge of the hardships, sacrifices, and adversities that teachers face while arduously working to educate students is prodigious. Knowing that we have a supporter that not only perceives the impact of meeting a wide variety of needs in a classroom, but also identifies with how it feels to be instrumental in helping these children realize they can succeed, is simply thrilling to us. We can't begin to express how grateful we are for this gift and how excited we are to partner with Dr. Riccadelli and with all of you to move our district forward. Together we can and we will make a positive difference for all students in this district. Okay, now for some statistics. As you know, the state of Florida ranks 48th in terms of teacher salaries. This is a frightening statistic, especially when you consider the critical shortage of teachers that we're currently facing. While Collier County is a desirable place to live, it's also a very expensive place to live. Taking into account the exorbitant cost of living index, skyrocketing home prices, and a steadily increasing population of families with school-aged children, our current crisis is going to grow into a looming disaster if we don't take measures now to rectify our teacher shortage. In order to attract and retain quality teachers, we're going to have to offer a lucrative package above and beyond what our competitors are offering. A package that will lure the best teachers to Collier County and keep them here and keep what we currently have with us. We listened intently when Dr. Riccadelli said she wanted to recruit and retain the best quality teachers that would do the right thing for students. We listened when she said the way to accomplish this goal was to bring forth the best and most competitive compensation package and to make professionals feel valued and appreciated every day. We acknowledge her sentiment, and we believe it to be both genuine and heartfelt. Hence, we have spent a lot of time and energy constructing a competitive package that we believe will help the district in their endeavor to recruit and retain highly qualified teachers. And now Kelly Bettridge has something that she wrote that she would like to read.
Thank you so much. Mr. Antonacci, I appreciate you sharing that information too. It's really helpful. It's important to note that though our bargaining session begins at the onset of Teacher Appreciation Week, the proposals we are submitting are not done so because we as teachers want to feel appreciated for all we have done for our students, district, and community. We are not submitting these proposals because of greed or entitlement either. We are submitting these proposals because we are the teachers, we are the parents, and the community members who want our children to have the best possible district with the best possible teachers in the state of Florida and in the country. As parents and teachers, we don't want our children attending schools with substitutes or inexperienced teachers. We have heard the possible solutions to teacher shortage, such as hiring teachers from culture exchange programs, and while we can appreciate this effort, we do not believe this will necessarily add to the overall quality of teachers in our schools, particularly if more seasoned teachers who would otherwise guide and mentor them in their new positions will not be there. As educators, if there isn't high quality education for our own children here in Collier, that is an additional disincentive for us to continue to live in this community and continue our teaching careers here as well. We believe the proposals we are bringing to this bargaining session are conservative in comparison to the critical need to recruit and retain teachers to save off the disaster related to the teacher shortage that will affect public, private, and charter schools alike. These proposals are not based on the whims of the 10 people sitting on this side of the table. We have received feedback from CCPS teachers, both association members and non-members, and the responses have been overwhelming. You will be hearing these collective voices here at the table tonight. We believe our teachers when we hear from them that our recent contract agreements were not enough for them. We believe our teachers when they say that this year's compensation package will determine whether or not they continue their careers in Collier County. We believe their decision to continue to live and teach in this district will be dependent upon changes to salary and the security of knowing we will be able to consistently and continually count on compensation that will allow them to provide for themselves and their families from now until retirement. We do not believe it is in any of our best interests to gamble on calling their bluff, but instead to implore the district and the school board to make an investment in the future of our schools and our children. If we come up short of our teachers' expectations this year, we know it will put an additional strain on a critical shortage for the coming school years and the challenges of how to recruit and retain their replacements. Teachers now have too many options from which to choose. Our goals at this table are not only to benefit teachers, but also to benefit stakeholders as we provide solutions to maintain and improve quality education through this impending crisis. Addressing the teacher shortage is key to maintaining and improving education in Florida and in this district. At some point, somewhere, somebody will have to be the one to aggressively attack the issue by taking the necessary steps to attract, recruit, and retain teachers. Why shouldn't it be Collier County? Why shouldn't Collier County choose now to lead our state and our country by investing in its teachers and students? After all, Collier County is indeed a leader in our profession.
Okay, the first proposal we're gonna put on the table is that salary.
Okay.
Okay, we have proposed, or we're putting on the table, the salary proposal. And again, we did a flat rate across the board to keep everything between grandfather and performance in line. But we have proposing $8,700 to be added to the base salary. And then, of course, step AA to be added to the grandfather scale. Or schedule, and then 3 fractional steps on performance for effective, 6 for highly effective, just like last year. And on the second page, on line 42, we want to change, supplements being computed by applying the index to the current base salary. And then, on line 45, if grandfathered schedule people opt to go into the performance schedule, they have to submit written notice no later than 30 business days after the ratification of this. Of our bargaining session contract.
Total cost?
Over 30 mil, it was over 30 mil. Was it 32? 26, okay.
26 mil, and that includes the current base, supplements? Or is that just salary?
Just salary.
26, just salary?
There was an estimate for supplements at about 20%. So it does include supplements, but it's based on an estimate. We would look for more definite information from Mr. Antonacci.
And that may be where I got my 30.
Okay. Did you estimate the percentage of increase?
Yes.
The percentage of the package?
We do have that. Give me just a quick sec. Actually, I take it back. We do not have an estimate as a percentage increase. And let me backtrack and give you the numbers again. Base salary was $26,804,700. And then the total increase with steps and with the estimate for supplements is $35,797,860.
That was a total cost, but we didn't do a percentage, right, Stephanie?
Okay.
That's correct.
Okay, any questions about that one?
Nope.
Okay. Then for the second proposal, Ms. Snoops is going to present this one. Actually, we have a proposal and then we also have
Information.
some information that,
An exhibit.
yes, that's a good word.
In keeping with what we believe to be a unified goal between CCEA and the district, to not only recruit high-quality teachers to join the CCPS family, but to also retain those teachers who have already been dedicated to CCPS. We identified an area in which we believe will help do just that. After reviewing the contracts of several districts, we found that Charlotte and Manatee counties, but most importantly, Lee County, obviously where we would hope to attract employees from to drive here to teach, already have contract language for our union proposal number 2, which is longevity. And what you have on Exhibit A is what Lee, Charlotte, and Manatee County have, and then on our proposal we have what we came up with.
Did you cost out this proposal? Asman, cost?
Not yet, still working on it.
Okay.
But we'll provide you with those numbers within 48 hours.
Thanks.
Okay, and then, any other questions?
Nope.
Okay, the next one is. Okay, the next one is planning time coverage. We worked on this some last year, but we would like to revisit this year. For secondary, we propose if a teacher covers another class for, more than 15 minutes, but less than 30, they would get a $30 stipend. And then if it's more than 41 minutes, or more than 30 minutes, but less than 70, that should say 75 right there. That should say 75, where 81 is struck through.
Okay.
In box 2 and 3 should say 75. If it's more than 30 minutes but less than 75, the covering teacher should receive their prorated hourly rate of pay or $40, whichever is greater. And then if it's one of the long periods, like I know at our school when we have that long lunch period, it's a long period because we have 3 lunches. But if a teacher covers for more than 75 minutes, then they should get their covering prorated hourly rate of pay or $55, whichever is greater. Because the bottom line is when teachers cover for other teachers, they still have their own work they have to do, and when they lost their planning time, they have to do it at home on their times, or stay at school late and do it on their time. And while teachers are covering to help out in the teacher shortage, the bottom line is they're responsible, they're hired to teach their class, and they still have to get their work done, and when they lose their planning, that's hard to do sometimes. And then at the bottom, at the elementary level, when a class is divided among other classes in the absence of an employee, we have proposed, of course, if it's more than 15 minutes but less than 30, they get a $50 stipend. If it's more than 30 minutes but less than 120, it would be $128. And then more than 120 minutes would be the $255, and we understand this is determined by how many teachers are on the team. And it would be divided by if kids are divided up.
I'll get you a copy of that.
Any questions about that?
Nope.
Alright, and then, this one is kind of unique. This goes back to the supplement for, like, team leader, department chair. We know that we have at least one school in our district that there's only 2 people on her team. And so therefore, she does all this work, but she doesn't get paid for it. So this is in for that person to get paid. I mean, that school, apparently it's, the staff is smaller and there's not 3 people on the team, but she still does the same work that anybody would do for a team of 3. But yeah, she can't get paid because of the way it's written in the contract. And to our knowledge, we think that they'll only affect one person, right?
Laverne Gainer, I believe.
Yeah.
That's the only one we're aware of.
Okay. The number, would you like to speak?
Please, you go.
The index that was used, we kind of did the math in terms of the difference between each level to the level above it, and we got a certain percentage, and that number proposed meets that approximation in terms of the differences between indexes.
But you're only changing the one.
Correct.
And this based on the, is this
Based on base salary?
base?
Yes.
You don't have that on here, so I just wanted to make sure that it's on there. Okay.
Okay, and then the next proposal, Steve Sullivan will speak to.
This is for middle and high school 7th period coverage differentiated pay. Middle and high school and adult education employees who volunteer to be regularly scheduled to teach their planning period shall be paid a 20% instructional supplement. And reasoning, extra workload, extra time. Teachers who take on a 7th period, they've helped the district become an A school district, and the district has saved a lot of money as well with this. And also, because of the extra workload, the teacher often has to take their work home with them.
Do you have the value of how much the district has saved by doing this?
No, I don't.
We could estimate that.
Always good to put a number behind a statement.
Yeah, and can I, we crossed out the top part because that was the 4x4 block sample, but it's still, we wanted to keep in adult ed as part of that middle and high school for people who are teaching additional class. That's why it's written that way.
Okay, and then we have one additional proposal to put on the table, and Mr. Lewis will speak to this. I'm sorry.
Sorry, I got long arms.
That's his, no, that's his.
Sorry.
He was on, no,
Oh,
both of
this-
these are
okay.
two different proposals.
All right, so I'm gonna speak to Union Proposal 6. And I think another way to describe it is an automatic step. Every year, teachers are observed and evaluated through the year. Evaluation scores are finalized by the end of the spring semester of every school year. Teachers earn those raises by the end of that spring for their next school year. We believe that there's no reason why teachers should have to wait for a salary increase that they earned the previous spring. And our proposal would make the 3 fractional increments the step, and whatever is in the collective bargaining agreement for highly effective employees, an automatic thing so that teachers would start the new school year with the raises that they had earned the previous school year. It's as simple and as complicated as that.
Except for you do realize we don't have test scores at the end of the spring. We don't actually receive the calculation or finish the calculations until we're back in the fall of the previous year. So it's always lag data. So you acknowledge your observations in the spring, in May. They acknowledge their instructional practice scores, but their growth scores are not added because they're not calculated till we get all of the test scores back from the state, and those usually don't come in until late July, early August, and then they go through the calculation process, and then or at earliest, we'll have September is when we would have the growth scores, which would then finalize that final evaluation. So we're always in the rears with those,
Right.
just so you're clear.
Understood, and I appreciate the information. I would say that it's still possible to accomplish the spirit of that by giving teachers at minimum a floor for what they are going to expect to earn in the upcoming school year. I get that we negotiate salaries every year, and we're fine with doing that, but to the extent that there's no change to the salary schedule, teachers can at least estimate what they're likely to earn, assuming either highly effective or effective status. Grandfather teachers, if there's no change to the salary schedule, at least might have some expectation if there's something added to the salary schedule, but that's just a part of bargaining. The fact is that those increases, at least at the base level, are earned the previous school year, and we'd like at least the district to honor that. I wasn't around for what I'm about to say, but it's my understanding that in the past, the step being automatic was how we conducted business, and at some point there was a difference of interpretation of what the language in the contract meant in terms of that. So we are looking to do business as we had done before, but with something specifically stating that the step is automatic.
Does anybody have any questions about any of the proposals that we put on the table?
Do not. Alright, well, we will caucus. Most likely will not come back this evening. You've given us a lot to talk about. We gotta work through. Get the numbers to us
Yes.
as soon as you can, and we'll get our ESSER monies off to you as well. And thank you for the snacks and water.
Can I ask a question, and maybe this is somewhere between HR and finance, but with supplements, non-regular salary payments, is there a report that you can provide to us that allows us to understand how much money is spent on those? Because it's difficult to estimate, you know, when we talk about class coverage, coaching supplements, the overall number, it's difficult for us to calculate. Is there something that you could point to and provide to us that will allow us to estimate more closely what you see?
We can take a look at it.
Yeah, we can take a look at it.
I remember in our last discussion, bargaining in the fall, we spoke about that, and if I recall correctly, I don't mean to put words into your mouth, John, you said something to the effect that it's a difficult number to calculate.
It is, but you can consider a percentage of increase between what you're currently paying and what a significant boost to, from the 43,760 to the 50.
Right.
Or whatever we end up with, cause right now it's at 50, but we're in negotiations, so if that goes up, you take that percentage of increase between that dollar amount and the base that it would end up in, and that's what you would apply across all of that. And then multiply it by the values of all of those supplements.
Got it. Okay.
That's about what I would do, to just kind of take a guess at what it would be. But it's the percentage between the two, cause that's the increased cost.
Got it. Okay.
Alright? And I'm sure we can get you a value of what we're paying for the indexed only,
Got it.
a total amount, so then you can add that to that dollar amount. I think we can do that.
So I was gonna say the coverage is the tough one.
Yep.
Coverage, unless we were looking at previous year or something, but
Yep.
current year's.
Alright, well, thank you very much. You did. I appreciate it, and I noticed you all have big hole punch too. I tell you, it keeps us all very organized. We're all
Educators, you can tell.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Well, thank you very much. Thank you for coming out to the board meeting on Wednesday night.
All right. Thank you.
We're glad we didn't give up all those hours and go away and
I was glad I was out of town and watching it from afar.
I said the same thing, I'm glad I watched it, because I was talking back to a lot of people that were up there, and it was not good for the city.
I know.
Thank you.
So good to see you.
and you sit on the wrong side, not knowing what it was.
Take care.
Yeah, they're not very kind.
I saw some text, but I got nervous.